Today, Mike Marqusee will be speaking to us for about half an hour, maybe 45 minutes, about his book, the contents of it. And then after that, we'll open the floor for discussion and questions. So, everyone, Mike Marqusee.
Thanks for that. Thanks to all of you for coming out tonight. I wrote this book because I had things that I needed to get off my chest and that had been sitting there uncomfortably for many, many years, in some cases for many decades. And in particular, I wanted this book to refute the allegations made against the Palestine Solidarity Movement that it was anti-Semitic to oppose Zionism, and the specific allegation made against people like myself that we were self-hating Jews. And I wanted to refute those, not simply through an abstract polemic, but through looking at the specifics of history, case histories, if you like, from my own experience, my family, but also going back and across through Jewish history. The overall purpose of my book was to weave together these different stories, to challenge the Zionist monopoly on Jewish loyalties, and to challenge the Zionist exploitation of Jewish identity. And in this 60th anniversary of the birth of the State of Israel, which is of course also the 60th anniversary of the Palestinian Nakba, and also the 60th anniversary of the end of that disgraceful episode known as the British Mandate in Palestine, it seemed to me very important to go back and to reclaim parts of Jewish history that had either been neglected or suppressed. I went all the way back to the foundation of the Jewish tradition, which is obviously the Hebrew Bible. Now, there are clearly sections of the Hebrew Bible which do support the Jewish claim, or the Zionist claim, that Palestine is a Jewish land. You can find quotations to that effect. But you can find loads of quotations making a very different point and projecting a radically different social vision than anything the Zionists could ever accept. I think my favorite of the Old Testament prophets is Amos, who's one of the earliest of them all, and is perhaps the greatest champion of social justice in the Old Testament. Amos believed that there was a universal standard of justice, a universal standard of human behavior towards other humans, which transcended tribal, ethnic, or national loyalties. He says very clearly to the Jews of his era that God has established a plumb line, which carpenters, plumbers here will know is a line that hangs strictly according to the force of gravity and does not vary depending on the subjective inclinations of the person who hangs it. And so Amos has the Lord showing the Jewish people of his age, this is the plumb line, and you will be judged by this plumb line, by this universal standard, which will not vary according to what people you belong to or what you've suffered previously. And at the climax of the book of Amos, which if you haven't read it, it's not that long, I really recommend it, it's immensely inspiring, he delivers a statement which I think cannot be read in our circumstances today as other than a rebuke and a refutation of the very essence of Zionism. And he says, "To me, O Israelites, you are just like the Ethiopians, declares the Lord. True, I brought Israel up from the land of Egypt, but also the Philistines from Caphtor and the Aramaeans from Kir." In other words, this land does not belong exclusively to you. You are here in it by God's will, exactly like all the other people who are here, and you have no superior rights. Now that passage is one of several in the Old Testament that cannot be reconciled to Zionist theory and practice. And simply by saying what Amos said in about 750 BC, today I qualify as a self-hating Jew. There's nothing more or less in the whole of the anti-Zionist ideology than in that passage from Amos that I just read to you. That says that the Jews are just one among a number of people with no more and no less rights than those other people who are resident in Palestine. So Amos is perhaps maybe he's the first self-hating Jew, but I can tell you that throughout Jewish history there are a large number of inspiring figures whom Jews ought to look back at with some pride. who would be considered self-hating Jews in the current atmosphere because they would not subscribe to the nationalist conception of Jewishness and the monopoly of Jewish identity that it implies that the Zionists promote.